Dr. Amanda Mitchell stood at the polished graphene podium, her reflection barely visible in its dark surface as she faced the United Earth Council. The chamber, carved deep beneath the Olympus Mons colony on Mars, hummed with the whispered conversations of 300 representatives from every human settlement in the solar system. "Distinguished colleagues," she began, her voice steadied despite the weight of the moment. "Today we prepare to announce our presence to the galaxy. But before we broadcast our message, I need you to understand something fundamental about our species." The holographic displays around her flickered to life, showing scenes from humanity's history. Not the peaceful achievements they planned to share with the galaxy, but images of warfare spanning millennia. "We've spent 50 years preparing for this moment," Amanda continued, her green eyes scanning the chamber. 50 years since we detected alien radio signals. 50 years of silence, building our defenses, strengthening our position. Now some of you want to announce ourselves with messages of peace and friendship. Admiral James Chen, representative from the Titan colonies, leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we threaten potential allies?" Dr. Mitchell. "That seems counterproductive to establishing diplomatic relations." Amanda picked up a small metallic cube from the podium. "A quantum data storage device. This contains my complete analysis of human military history compared to the fragments we've intercepted from alien communications. Their conflicts are limited, regulated. They fight like species who discovered unity before they discovered war." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Amanda waited for them to quiet before continuing. "We are different. We achieved unity not through natural cooperation, but because we understood the devastating consequences of remaining divided. Every human advancement, every technological breakthrough, has been driven by conflict or the fear of conflict." She gestured to the holographic displays, now showing Earth's orbital defense network disguised as debris and maintenance stations. "We turned our entire solar system into a fortress not because we're paranoid, but because we understand something our potential alien neighbors don't. The true nature of warfare." "What exactly are you proposing?" This from Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Earth's representative. Amanda straightened, her expression grave. "A warning. Not a threat, but a responsibility. We've spent thousands of years fighting ourselves, developing weapons and tactics that would horrify societies that never experienced total war. We learned our lessons in blood. If we enter galactic society, we need other species to understand what they're dealing with." She pressed a button, and a simple message appeared in the air above her. "We come in peace, but fear our wrath." The chamber fell silent. "They need to understand," Amanda continued, her voice softer now, "that we choose peace not because we're weak, but because we know war too well. This message isn't about pride or intimidation. It's about preventing unnecessary conflict." Admiral Chen stood. "You realize they'll likely see this as primitive chest beating." "Let them," Amanda replied. "Better they underestimate us than misunderstand us. Every major conflict in human history began with one side misreading the other's capability or resolve." The voting began moments later. Amanda watched the numbers climb on her neural display, her heart pounding despite her calm exterior. The final tally: 189 in favor, 111 opposed. 24 hours later, humanity's first message streaked across the cosmos at faster-than-light speeds, encoded in 30 different formats to ensure translation. As Amanda watched the transmission statistics from her office in Olympus City, her assistant entered with a priority message. "Doctor, we're receiving responses already." The Shkitl Empire's Supreme Commander Krithak sent a personal reply. He seems amused. Amanda smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Good. Let them laugh." Every military commander in human history knows that underestimation is an advantage. She turned to look through the transparent dome at the Martian sunset, her expression thoughtful. "They'll understand soon enough." In the depths of space, humanity's warning continued its journey, carrying with it 5,000 years of hard-learned lessons about the true cost of war. and the true value of peace. Captain Jennifer Hayes stood on the bridge of the EDS Prometheus, watching the alien diplomatic fleet approach through the holographic display. 6 vessels of varying designs, each one broadcasting credentials from different Galactic Council species. Their trajectory brought them straight toward Earth's designated meeting point, just beyond the orbit of Europa. "They're not even trying to scan for defensive positions," Lieutenant Park remarked from his tactical station, almost sounding disappointed. "Why would they?" Jennifer replied, adjusting her midnight blue uniform. "According to their messages, they think they're greeting a young species eager to join galactic civilization." She allowed herself a small smile. "Let's give them their first lesson in human preparedness." The alien fleet crossed the first perimeter marker. Right on cue, hundreds of seemingly random pieces of space debris lit up with minimal power signatures, just enough to be noticed. "Captain," the alien flagship hailed, "we're detecting unusual energy readings from the surrounding debris field. Is this some sort of natural phenomenon?" "Not exactly, Ambassador Crix." Jennifer's voice remained professionally pleasant. "You're currently surrounded by a fraction of Earth's defensive grid. Don't worry, it's standard procedure for all visitors to our system." A pause. "Standard procedure. Of course. If you'll follow our transmitted course exactly, you'll find it's perfectly safe. Deviate by more than 50 meters, and automated systems will consider it an aggressive action." Jennifer nodded to her weapons officer. "Perhaps a small demonstration is in order." "Lieutenant Rodriguez, grid point 47. A beam of concentrated energy lanced out from what appeared to be a derelict satellite, striking a nearby asteroid barely larger than a shuttle. The rock didn't explode. Instead, it split cleanly in half, the cut edges glowing molten red. Silence filled the comm channel. "That was our lowest power setting," Jennifer added casually. "Now shall we proceed to the diplomatic reception? Earth's representatives are eager to meet you." The alien vessels followed the Prometheus through the defense grid with exacting precision. Jennifer watched their sensor emissions spike as they tried to catalog every hidden weapon platform. She knew they wouldn't succeed. The system had been designed with alien scanning technology in mind, using Earth's 50 years of intercepted alien communications to develop countermeasures. "They're scanning our hull composition," Lieutenant Park reported. "Let them," Jennifer replied. "They won't find anything surprising. The real surprises are better left unknown." She thought of the quantum-locked weapon systems, the phase-shifted armor, the temporal disruption fields, technologies humanity had developed through decades of paranoid preparation. The Prometheus docked with Unity Station, humanity's massive orbital diplomatic center. Through the viewing ports, Jennifer could see the alien diplomats' expressions as they took in the station's design. It wasn't the sleek, aesthetic construction typical of council architecture. Unity Station looked like what it was, a fortress disguised as a diplomatic post. "Welcome to Sol System," Jennifer announced as the airlock cycled. "I'll be escorting you to the reception hall. Please note that while you're here, any scanning devices or weapons, including biological augmentations, will be automatically disabled. This is for everyone's safety." Ambassador Crix, a tall, crystalline being, stepped forward. "Captain Hayes, I must protest. These security measures seem excessive for a diplomatic meeting." "With all due respect, Ambassador," Jennifer replied, "humanity has a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Every defensive measure you've seen today exists because we believe true peace is only possible when both sides understand each other's capabilities." She led them through corridors lined with what appeared to be decorative panels, each one containing enough firepower to level a small city. The alien sensor equipment, now completely silent, told them nothing of the dangers they passed. "Your message," Crix said carefully. "The one about fearing your wrath. Was it meant as a threat?" Jennifer stopped at the reception hall doors, turning to face the delegation. "No, Ambassador. It was meant as a courtesy. Humanity has learned its lessons about war through bloodshed and loss. We'd prefer our new galactic neighbors learn through simple observation. The doors opened to reveal Earth's diplomatic team, led by Dr. Amanda Mitchell herself. The first true meeting between humanity and the galaxy was about to begin, and everyone present could feel that nothing in council space would ever be quite the same. Lieutenant Commander Jack Thompson was enjoying his coffee in the Titan Defense Station's monitoring room when the proximity alert shattered his peace. The Shkil vessel had appeared just beyond Saturn's rings, well outside the designated diplomatic corridors. "Got something interesting, sir," Specialist Emma Rivera called out from her station. "Shkil registry matches a known trade vessel, but their trajectory." She frowned. "They're heading straight for the Prometheus's classified docking coordinates." Jack set down his coffee, military training replacing casual comfort. How'd they get those coordinates? It wasn't really a question. The Shkil had been probing Earth's defenses for weeks, testing boundaries, gathering data. "Send them standard warnings, all frequencies," he ordered, already moving to the tactical station. "And wake up Strike Team Delta." The warnings went unheeded. The Shkil ship maintained its course, its captain probably believing their advanced shielding could handle whatever primitive defenses the humans might possess. "They're scanning our defensive grid," Emma reported, "using frequencies we haven't shown them we can detect." Jack smiled. "Perfect. Deploy Countermeasures Package 7. Across Saturn's orbit, hundreds of seemingly dormant defense platforms suddenly activated. Not with weapons, but with electromagnetic pulses precisely tuned to the frequencies the Shkil used for their shield harmonics. Data gathered from weeks of their probing attempts was about to pay off. The alien vessel's shields flickered and died. "Their engines are still hot," Emma warned. "They might." "Not anymore," Jack interrupted, sending the second sequence. Targeted graviton beams from a dozen different platforms caught the ship in a web of artificial gravity, freezing it in space. "Strike Team Delta is ready, sir," the comm officer announced. Jack stood, checking his tactical suit's seals. "Tell them to meet me in Bay 3. We're going to show our friends some human hospitality." The boarding operation was textbook perfect. If your textbook was written by people who'd spent centuries perfecting the art of ship-to-ship warfare, the Shkil crew never stood a chance. Jack's team moved through the vessel like ghosts, using electromagnetic disruption fields to disable the aliens' advanced weapons before they could fire. Their tactics weren't fancy or sophisticated by human standards, just well-practiced moves developed over countless terrestrial conflicts and space piracy encounters. "Bridge secured," Sergeant Sarah Collins reported over the tactical net. 6 crew members, all alive, all contained. "You should see their faces, sir. They look like they can't believe what just happened." Jack stepped onto the bridge, his tactical suit's sensors already downloading everything they could from the ship's computers. The Shkil captain, a towering insectoid being, chittered something that the translation software rendered as impossible. "Your species is too young for such tactics. Age doesn't always equal advancement," Jack replied, removing his helmet to look the alien in its compound eyes. "Humanity's been practicing the art of warfare since we learned to walk upright. We just prefer not to advertise it. The real work began after the crew was safely transferred to holding cells on Titan." Jack led the engineering team that systematically dismantled the Shkil vessel, cataloging every piece of technology, every weapon system, every scrap of data they could find. "Sir," Emma called him 3 hours into the operation, "we found something interesting in their secure data core. They weren't just probing our defenses, they were gathering intelligence for a larger fleet." Jack reviewed the data on his neural link, his expression hardening. "Send everything to command. And make sure our Shkil friends are comfortable. They're going to be our guests until their government explains exactly what they were planning." Later, in his report to Earth Command, Jack included a personal note. "The Shkil underestimated us because they've never faced a species that evolved through constant conflict. They see our defensive preparations as paranoia. They don't understand that we're not paranoid. We're experienced. Every precaution we take, every defense we build, comes from lessons written in blood. Today's incident wasn't just about stopping one ship. It was about sending a message. Humanity's warning wasn't empty rhetoric. We know exactly what we're capable of, and we're prepared to demonstrate it if necessary. The incident would become known throughout Council space as the day the galaxy learned that humanity's preparedness wasn't just for show. It wouldn't be the last lesson they'd learn about their new neighbors from Earth. Colonel Rebecca "Becca" Winters watched Galactic Council investigators Zixna's expression shift from curiosity to horror as they walked through the War Memorial Museum beneath Washington, D.C. The alien's color-shifting skin had settled into a pale green. What Becca had learned indicated deep disturbance among the Ixtheri species. This exhibit, Zixna gestured to a World War IO display, their translator struggling with the emotion in their voice. You're saying 60 million of your species died in just 6 years. 60 million in the war itself, Becca corrected, her combat boots echoing in the quiet hall. Many more in the aftermath. And that was just one conflict. She stopped before a massive screen showing an atomic bomb's mushroom cloud. This was the moment everything changed, when we realized we could destroy ourselves completely. But you continued fighting even after this revelation. Becca's laugh was hollow. We didn't just continue. We got better at it. More precise. More lethal. She pulled up her sleeve, revealing the neural interface that marked her as a veteran of the Belt Wars. Every war taught us new lessons. Every conflict pushed our innovation. They moved through the centuries. The Cold War's proxy conflicts, the Middle Eastern campaigns, the lunar disputes, the Mars colonial uprising. Zixna stopped at each one, their analytical minds struggling to process the sheer scale of human warfare. My grandfather fought in Afghanistan, Becca said, pausing at a desert combat display. My mother was a lunar defense commander. I led troops against the Belt pirates. War isn't just our history, it's in our family stories, our cultural memory. This explains much. Zixna managed, their skin now a mottled pattern of green and gray. When we received your warning about fearing your wrath, we thought it melodramatic. Now I understand it was restraint. They entered a secure chamber requiring Becca's military credentials. The walls lit up with classified battle footage from recent conflicts, including the Titan Defense Station incident. Watch how our troops boarded the Ch'tul vessel, Becca pointed out. Those tactics. They're adapted from ancient naval warfare, refined through centuries of combat evolution. We don't just learn from our victories. We learn even more from our failures. Zixna's analytical appendages twitched. Your species, you've never known true peace, have you? We've known peace, Becca corrected, leading them to the final exhibit. We just never trusted it to last. Look at this. The display showed Earth's current defense network, layers upon layers of protection, from automated drone swarms to quantum-locked weapon platforms, from gravity manipulation fields to temporal disruption grids. Everything you see here, Becca explained, was built because we remember. Every weapon, every defense, every protocol is written in the blood of lessons learned. Zixna's translator crackled with their agitation. The Council, they need to understand this. Your species isn't just another emerging civilization. You're survivors, Becca finished, of our own worst impulses, our own capacity for destruction. We built this defense network not because we want war, but because we understand it better than any species we've encountered. She pulled up one final hologram, her family tree, marked with military service across generations. This is why we warned the galaxy about our wrath, not because we're proud of it, but because we know exactly what we're capable of. We've spent thousands of years learning the cost of conflict. We'd rather share those lessons peacefully than demonstrate them practically. As they left the museum, Zixna paused under the evening sky. Colonel Winters, your species terrifies me, not because you're inherently violent, but because you've mastered violence in ways we never imagined possible. And yet we choose peace whenever we can, Becca nodded. Because unlike the rest of the galaxy, we know exactly what the alternative costs. Later that night, Zixna's report to the Galactic Council began with a simple warning of their own. The humans weren't boasting. They weren't threatening. They were trying to prevent us from learning their capabilities the hard way. We should be grateful for their restraint, and very, very careful not to test its limits. Admiral David Wolf Harrison stood in the Fleet Command Center deep within Ceres, watching as the Shuttle battle fleet materialized at the edge of the solar system. 27 warships, their hulls bristling with weapons that had conquered a dozen less prepared species. Status of Operation Pandora's Box? He asked, his weathered face illuminated by tactical holograms. Green across the board. Commander Maya Rodriguez reported. Quantum nets are charged. Ghost Fleet is in position. The Shuttle are proceeding exactly as the predictive AI suggested they would. David allowed himself a grim smile. The Shuttle, following their standard conquest protocol, had arranged their fleet in a classic spear formation. It was a tactic that had served them well against conventional defenses. Humanity didn't build conventional defenses. All commands, execute Phase 1, David ordered. Let's show them why you don't challenge a species that spent millennia perfecting the art of war. Across the solar system, hidden weapon platforms awakened, but they didn't fire. Not yet. Instead, thousands of quantum-linked drones emerged from their concealment within the asteroid belt. Each one was a perfect holographic replica of Earth's most advanced warships. The Shuttle fleet faltered, their formation wavering as their sensors reported impossible numbers. They're launching fighter screens, Maya reported. Standard response to numerical superiority. Wait. Sir, they're transmitting. The Shuttle fleet commander appeared on the main display, his insectoid features arranged in what their cultural database suggested was smugness. Impressive illusions, humans, but holograms cannot harm our ships. You're right, David replied calmly. They can't, but they've already served their purpose. While the Shuttle were distracted by the drone fleet, real human ships had used their quantum entanglement drives to slip through space itself, emerging inside the alien formation, not to attack, but to deploy their real weapons. Phase 2, David commanded. Microscopic machines, released by the infiltration ships, began their work. Each one carried a fraction of a program designed to interface with the quantum probability field that the Shuttle used for their shields. The alien commander's smugness vanished as ship after ship reported shield failures. Impossible, he chittered. Our technology is centuries ahead of yours. Technology isn't everything, David responded, watching his tactical display light up with confirmation signals. Humanity learned long ago that victory goes to whoever thinks differently. We spent 50 years studying your transmissions, learning your weaknesses. Did you really think we wouldn't find them? The Shuttle ships began firing, their energy weapons lancing out at the human fleet. But their targeting systems, calibrated for normal space combat, couldn't track vessels using maneuvers derived from ancient terrestrial dogfights. Humanity had learned aerial combat in 3 dimensions long before reaching space. Adding a fourth was simply an evolution of existing doctrine. Phase 3, David ordered, his voice steady as the real battle began. Human ships moved like no vessels the Shuttle had ever encountered, using gravitational slingshots and micro-jumps in patterns that seemed random, but were actually based on centuries-old guerrilla warfare tactics. Each damaged human ship became a weapon itself, its reactor deliberately destabilized to create zones of disrupted spacetime. Sir, Maya reported, they're attempting to regroup for a concentrated push toward Earth. David nodded. Just as expected. Execute final phase. The true purpose of the quantum nets revealed itself. Every piece of debris, every abandoned drone, every scattered fragment of destroyed ships suddenly linked together, creating a web of quantum-entangled matter. The Shuttle fleet found itself trapped in a cage of probability, their advanced drives unable to calculate safe trajectories. Attention Shuttle fleet, David broadcast. You have two options. Surrender and be escorted safely out of our system, or continue this fight and learn exactly why humanity spent thousands of years trying to prevent unnecessary wars. The response came quickly. 27 of the galaxy's most advanced warships, commanded by one of its most militant species, surrendered to a civilization they had dismissed as primitive mere hours ago. As the shuttle ships powered down their weapons, David sent a final message to Earth Command. Operation Pandora's Box successful. The galaxy just learned why humanity's warning wasn't a threat. It was a mercy. Major Emily Ghost Blackwood floated silently through the corridors of the shuttle flagship, her quantum phase armor rendering her virtually undetectable. Behind her, 5 members of the 1st Special Operations Division moved like shadows, their movements honed by generations of Special Forces doctrine. Control, we've reached the central data core, Emily vocalized through her neural link. Beginning infiltration sequence Alpha. While the main fleet battle had raged across the solar system, Emily's team had executed the real mission. The shuttle's military defeat was important, but information was the true objective. Got something interesting, Major, Lieutenant James Chen whispered through the tactical net. Their combat logs go back centuries, every species they've encountered, every battle they've fought. Emily moved to his position, her augmented vision scanning the alien text. Download everything. Command needs to see this. A sudden shift in the ship's gravity field warned them they weren't alone. 2 shuttle warriors rounded the corner, their bio-enhanced armor making them tower over the human operatives. Emily's team reacted without hesitation. Centuries of close-quarters combat experience filtered through their neural networks. Before the aliens could raise their weapons, they found themselves disabled by techniques developed in Earth's ancient martial arts, adapted for zero-gravity combat. These warriors, Emily noted, securing the unconscious aliens, they're supposed to be the galaxy's elite fighters, but they've never faced an enemy who evolved through constant conflict. Major, her team's tech specialist, Sarah Martinez, called out, "You need to see this. It's their tactical database. Every strategy they know, every combat doctrine they've developed. It's all theoretical. They've never had to adapt under real combat conditions." Emily accessed the data through her neural interface. The shuttle, for all their fearsome reputation, had never experienced the kind of total warfare that had shaped human history. Their battles were regulated, their conflicts limited by cultural and technological constraints. "Send this to Admiral Harrison," she ordered, "and prepare for Phase 2. Minutes later, Emily stood in the flagship's communication center, her team having systematically neutralized the skeleton crew. With precise keystrokes, they began broadcasting their findings on all frequencies. The data told a story the galaxy needed to understand. The shuttle, like most spacefaring species, had achieved unity before developing their most destructive weapons. They had never experienced the crucible of mutually assured destruction, never felt the desperate drive to innovate that came from existential threats. "This is Major Emily Blackwood of the Earth Defense Force," she transmitted. "To all Galactic Council species monitoring this channel, what you're about to see explains why humanity warned you about our wrath." The broadcast included carefully selected footage, Earth's world wars, the Cold War's tension, the colonial conflicts that followed humanity into space. But more importantly, it showed what these conflicts had created. A species that had turned warfare into a science, that had learned to think in ways other species never needed to. "We didn't develop our military capability because we wanted to," Emily continued, her voice steady. "We developed it because we had to. Every weapon we possess, every tactic we employ, was born from the need to survive our own violent nature." The shuttle command staff, now secured in their own brig, watched in stunned silence as humanity's true history unfolded before the galaxy. "You see us as young, untested," Emily's broadcast concluded. "But we fought more battles, lost more lives, and learned more lessons about warfare than any species in known space. We don't share this to boast. We share it so you understand why we try so hard to maintain peace. We know, better than anyone, what the alternative looks like. Hours later, as her team prepared to return to their stealth vessel, Emily added a personal note to her mission report. The Shkull didn't surrender because we defeated their fleet. They surrendered because they finally understood what they were facing. A species that had turned the art of warfare into a cornerstone of their civilization, not out of pride or aggression, but out of the desperate need to survive their own history. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. Dr. Marcus Reynolds stood before the emergency Galactic Council Summit, his presentation suite in the Orbital Diplomatic Center, offering a breathtaking view of Earth below. Representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations watched with growing unease as he initiated the war game simulation. "What you're about to witness," Marcus began, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of human military theory, "isn't just a demonstration. It's an explanation of why humanity developed differently from every other species in known space." A holographic display came to life, showing two civilizations meeting in space. One developed like most council species, achieving unity before reaching for the stars. The other evolved like humanity. "First scenario," Marcus announced. "Standard space combat. Council doctrine versus human tactics." The simulation played out, showing human ships using maneuvers that seemed to defy conventional logic, diving into asteroid fields, using damaged vessels as weapons, employing electromagnetic debris as impromptu shields. "Your civilizations developed space combat from theoretical principles," Marcus explained. "We developed it by adapting thousands of years of atmospheric combat experience. Every trick you see here was born in the skies of Earth, paid for in blood, and refined through countless conflicts." The Shkull representative, still shaken from their recent defeat, chittered nervously. "What such tactics? They risk everything. They defy strategic logic." "That's precisely the point," Marcus replied, initiating the second simulation. Humanity learned early that survival sometimes means doing the illogical. When facing extinction, conventional wisdom becomes a luxury. The display shifted to Earth's restricted weapons vault deep beneath the Mariana Trench. Not the nuclear arsenals or antimatter bombs that every species expected, but weapons that made the Council representatives recoil in horror. Engineered viruses that could target specific genetic markers, nanobots programmed to disassemble matter at the molecular level, devices that could alter the fabric of space-time itself. "We developed these," Marcus continued, his voice grave. "And then we locked them away. Not because they didn't work, but because we decided some weapons were too horrible to exist. Your species never created such things because you never needed to think in these terms. We did it because, for most of our history, we were our own worst enemy." He paused, letting the implications sink in. Humanity united not because we evolved beyond conflict, but because we understood its ultimate cost. Every defense platform in our system, every military protocol we follow, comes from lessons written in the blood of our ancestors. The Ixtheri representative's skin shifted to a deep blue of comprehension. "Your warning about fearing your wrath, it wasn't about what you would do to us. It was about what we've already done to ourselves," Marcus finished. "What we're capable of doing when pushed too far. The galaxy sees us as paranoid, overarmed, obsessed with defense. We see ourselves as survivors who learned our lessons the hard way." He initiated the final simulation, a comprehensive display of Earth's defensive capabilities. Not the obvious ones already known to the Council, but the hidden layers. Quantum entanglement fields that could freeze entire fleets in probability loops, temporal shields that could reverse incoming attacks, AI systems that could predict and counter any known combat doctrine. "This is why we warned you," Marcus concluded. "Not because we wanted to frighten you, but because we wanted to avoid having to demonstrate our capabilities practically. Every advancement you see here came from conflict. Every innovation was driven by the need to survive. We chose peace not because we're weak, but because we understand war better than any species in known space." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't developed alongside the galactic community's guidelines because they'd followed a different evolutionary path, one forged in the crucible of constant conflict and desperate innovation. Later, as the council representatives filed out, many still visibly shaken, Marcus added a personal note to his report. Today the galaxy finally understood that humanity's greatest achievement isn't our military might or our defensive capabilities. It's the fact that we learned to choose peace despite having mastered war. They fear our weapons, but they should respect our restraint. After all, any species can learn to fight. Learning when not to, that's the real victory. Commander Lisa Iron Lady Martinez stood at the podium of the newly restructured Galactic Defense Council, her dress uniform adorned with medals that told the story of humanity's brief but intense introduction to galactic society. 2 years had passed since the Shikal incident, and the galaxy had changed profoundly. Distinguished representatives, she began, her voice carrying across the chamber built within Europa's diplomatic station. Today we begin a new chapter in galactic history, not as conquerors or victims, not as aggressors or peacekeepers, but as teachers. The assembled aliens, former enemies, and cautious allies alike, watched as she activated the central hologram. It showed a new type of defense grid, one that incorporated both human tactical innovation and alien technological advancement. Humanity spent 50 years preparing for war, Lisa continued, her dark eyes scanning the chamber. Now we offer something different, a chance to prepare for peace, not through weakness, but through strength, not through ignorance, but through understanding. The Shkil representative, once their fiercest opponent, now nodded in agreement. Their species had learned the hardest lesson about human capabilities. Now they were among the strongest supporters of the new initiative. Our proposal is simple, Lisa explained. A combined defensive force that draws on humanity's strategic experience and the Council's advanced technology. Every species contributes what they do best. Together, we create something unprecedented. A peace kept not through fear, but through mutual respect and preparation. The hologram shifted, showing training simulations where human tactical advisors worked alongside alien forces, teaching centuries of hard-won combat wisdom while learning about technologies humanity had never imagined. Some of you still fear us, Lisa acknowledged, her voice softening. You look at our history, our capabilities, and you see a threat. But look closer. Look at what we did with that power when we had the Shkil fleet at our mercy. Look at what we've done with our most dangerous weapons. The display showed Earth's weapon vaults being converted into research centers, where human and alien scientists work together to turn tools of war into instruments of progress. We choose peace not because we must, but because we understand better than anyone what the alternative costs. Every human child learns about our world wars, our near-extinction events, our desperate battles for survival. We carry those lessons in our DNA. A new image appeared, the first graduating class of the combined Galactic Defense Academy. Human instructors teaching alien cadets about strategy and survival, while alien technologists shared advances that would have taken humanity centuries to develop alone. This is our gift to the galaxy, Lisa declared. Not our weapons or our tactics, but our understanding. The wisdom earned through millennia of conflict, used not to dominate, but to prevent unnecessary warfare. We offer our experience so that other species never have to learn these lessons the way we did. The chamber erupted in approving gestures from a dozen different species. The Ixtheri's skin gleamed with colors of hope, the Shkil's antennae waved in respect, and even the crystalline Vorkath resonated at frequencies of agreement. Let the galaxy remember this day, Lisa concluded, not as the day humanity proved its strength, but as the day we all chose to learn from each other. Our warning about fearing our wrath wasn't the beginning of our story in the galaxy, it was the end of our isolation. Today, we start writing a new story together. The vote that followed was unanimous. The new Combined Defense Initiative would reshape galactic society, creating a peace built on understanding rather than ignorance, on respect rather than fear. Later, in her private quarters, Lisa added a final entry to the historical record. Humanity's greatest victory wasn't winning the galaxy's respect through force. It was showing them that true strength lies in choosing peace despite having mastered war. We came to the stars carrying centuries of conflict in our hearts, but we found something better. A chance to ensure those hard-learned lessons serve a greater purpose. The galaxy feared our wrath, but in the end, they embraced our wisdom. The age of isolation was over. The age of understanding had begun.